This is a video response to someone, I think he calls himself Hand H Forever, and he was responding to Amazing Atheist, who had made a video saying that although people may not have a religious belief, they often have another belief system which they follow, like socialism or I don't know, capitalism or something. And he was saying that if a person has a belief which doesn't quite follow that belief system, then he often thinks, I should abandon that belief because it doesn't conform. And he's saying, why should we do that? Why can't individuals all have their own kind of thoughts about things? Because if they have a thought, it's often quite justified, and even if it doesn't conform to the belief system, there's good reason still to maintain it. Now, Hand H Forever made a video replying that for theists, they have a doctrine which tells them exactly what to believe, and in it has certain moral code which can't kind of be denied. Whereas if you take two atheists, let's say A and B, now say A believes that rape is wrong, B believes that rape is right, and what I'm just going to call him Hand for short. What Hand was saying was that we can't say from an atheist perspective that either A or B is right, because there's no kind of objective moral code which is which can tell us which one is right. Whereas from a theist perspective, there is this objectivism which comes from their religion. Now, I would say that although we can't objectively say that A or B is right, there's a good reason to think that A has a better argument, which is that rape is wrong. There's no universal law which is telling us that either of them is right. It's like there's no universal objectivity about kind of the rightness of stars being created or not created. In the same way, we can't say that it's absolutely objectively right that rape is wrong, but there's very good reasons to think that it is wrong, and they come from within our society, from our culture. We will have a kind of feeling that rape is wrong, and so we kind of have to examine why we have this idea. Now, if B rapes, he will go to a prison because there's a law that it's wrong. And why do we have that law? Because we all have an equal right to life. Now, you may say, well, if that was the case, then why would people kind of have battles and stuff? Well, primitively, the equal right to life is kind of clan-based, so within the clan, it's kind of necessary for them that they all respect each other's right to life. Otherwise, the clan would fall apart. They might all have arguments and kill each other, etc. And that's really from a kind of cultural point of view. Now we've extended that in modern times, and we've said, well, there's no good reason to think that someone from another culture, from another country, has less right to life than us, because there's just no good argument to say that. And it's actually more efficacious for us as a whole to believe that each of our members of the entire world have just as much right to live as another, until they do something which kind of forfeits that right to life. Now, it's kind of, as I was saying, like it's pretty much logically valid that for a community to function, all of the members must have a kind of equal right. And as society progresses, regardless of theism, it kind of becomes more and more apparent that we can't say you have less right to life because, I don't know, you're of a different colour or you're a different social class. And raping is an infringement of that. So we've established that everyone has this equal right, and therefore if some person of the society says, okay, I think it's right to rape, although we can't say that's objectively wrong, we can still criticise him for it. I mean, the reason why we have this kind of equality is because it's really selfishly based, essentially. Because if you were to say, okay, I think it's right to go and hit that man over there, from your argument, he has just as much right to say, well, I can go and hit you. And you do have the same kind of right in some respect, but you don't want him to go and hit you because that's going to badly affect you. And so if you take this argument, then it's not going to help you at all. So really there's a very good reason for us to prohibit each of our members of a community from doing various different things like raping and killing, etc, etc. Now, when you have something like a war, this kind of right to life is essentially almost suspended, because then the situation have changed. And in war, that's why you have kind of scenes of rape and murder, etc. In the kind of peaceful sections of society who aren't engaging in the war, when we hear about that, we're often horrified and we say, how could they be doing that? Because we haven't kind of experienced this almost distancing factor. As soon as people are put at war with each other, they're immediately kind of they're set apart from each other, and they can't really recognise each other in the same way, because if they could, that would kind of stop them from killing each other, which is kind of the point of war. So anyway, now you're going to now say, well, there are people who say rape is right, and we generally regard them as kind of sociopaths, or people taking this kind of social Darwinistic might is right approach. And although we can't condemn them for that, if they were to argue with that, we would try to reason with them and say there's not a good reason to believe that, and it's not going to help you either. But what they also know is that they do kind of act on this urge which they have, or belief, then they will be punished by the rest of the community, because the rest of us already know that essentially it's not a good thing, and that's why we accord to the law which says rape is wrong. So the fact that they know they'll be punished for it shows that in some sense their belief is not really well justified. They may still think it is, but they also know that they're not going to convince anyone by it, so they've set themselves apart from the rest of the community. And that's why most atheists you'll talk to don't say rape is right, because they know it's an unfounded and therefore a stupid notion to hold. Moreover, there are people in any society which are going to hold that rape is right, and generally we don't really regard them as proper members of the society. They've kind of have not understood the reasons for having this law which says rape is wrong, and they can be religious as well as atheist. I mean, in most of the holy books there are passages which will justify raping and killing, and they can cherry pick and use those as uses of the justification, which is actually a bad thing in itself, because whereas for atheists, as I was saying, they can recognise that everyone else is saying, look, it's not a good idea, and there's no objective basis for them to have this belief. They then have no justification for acting upon it. But if you have religious people who then find justification within their holy books to rape, they're actually more of a threat to the rest of us than someone who does have no religious belief. And I think essentially that's more of a worrying thing. So, in conclusion, I don't think you have a good argument, really. You're saying that from an objective point of view, if there is objectivism, it will tell us that rape is wrong. But what I want to say is that actually, if there is an objective point of view, then I'm not sure that it is going to say rape is objectively wrong.